What's going on, Collective listeners? Welcome back to another episode of the Samson Strength Coach Collective. I'm your host, Anthony Grasso. Today we have Kade McGee joining us. He's the Director of Strength and Conditioning at American Christian Academy. It's down in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Kade and I go way back, intern at Alabama together, and he's got some awesome insight in this. And honestly, it was one of those podcasts where I just felt like I was learning the entire time. We talk all the time about educating our athletes and just educating the people that we're working with. He's got some really, really interesting ways that he's going about doing so. And obviously his journey has been, fantastic. And he's picked up a ton of info bits that I think are really going to be helpful here too. So enjoy this podcast. It's awesome. Kade's a great dude, real down to earth dude. So enjoy it. Let's get into it. What's going on, Collective listeners? Welcome back to another episode of the Samson Strength Coach Collective. I'm your host, Anthony Grasso. Today, we are joined by Kade McGee. He's the Director of Strength and Conditioning at American Christian Academy down in Tuscaloosa. Kade and I go way back. We were interns back in, was it 2017? I think the summer of 2017 we were at Alabama. Well, I think you were there for a little longer. It might have even been there before me or something like that. But yeah, man. So I'm pumped to have Kade on. He's been doing some great things, and obviously I wanted to highlight that. And so Kade, welcome, my man. I know this is the first time you and I have touched base, obviously, in a while. So this is awesome. Like, I always like when I do podcasts with either A, people that I don't know and haven't met before, or B, people who I just haven't had a chance to talk to in a while. So this is a good opportunity for us to kind of catch up. And I'm really pumped to hear what you've been up to over the past, whatever is that, 5-6 years now. So yeah, Kade, welcome, my man. Pumped to catch up with you, man. So why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, let the people know who you are, and a little bit about your story and where this whole thing started and where you're at now.
Yeah, well, Anthony, first off, man, I really appreciate you having me on, man. Like you said, we go way back, back in the nitty gritty days of interning, man. It's kind of grinding, trying to find that first full-time job, man. So those are some good memories. But yeah, man, to kind of give you the gist, the kind of quick story is, I came to UA back in 2015, and I started interning in the weight room there at Alabama. It was fall of 2016. So kind of going into Thanksgiving of that year. I first started out just working with softball and the swim team under Coach Michelle Diltz. Coach Diltz has been a great mentor of mine, really showed me and taught me how to be a strength and conditioning coach. So I owe everything to that woman. She's been really helpful to me in my journey. And then shortly after that, I got involved with football that year of 2017. So got to work with the football team that full year of that national championship run, which was pretty special when they won it in 2018. Learned a lot of good lessons just on how to coach and how to lead groups. Got to work with a lot of different sports. And then from there, I graduated in December of 2017 from Alabama. And then after that, I went on and got my master's degree from Xavier University in coaching and athletic development. And while I was doing that, man, I kind of had a really cool, I call it my grad assistantship. So I was working part-time at my alma mater, Bibb County High School, just training their football team, baseball team, basketball teams in the afternoon. So while I was getting my master's degree online, I was doing some personal training. I was still interning part-time at Alabama, and then I would drive to the high school in the afternoons and train those kids. And then sometimes I'd come back and have clients in the evening. So just grinding away, working multiple jobs at one time. And then ACA came along in May of 2019. So that was my first full-time position here. I'm the school's first ever full-time strength and conditioning coach. So nice. They created the position. So I really got to build the program from the ground up, do it how I wanted it done, man. And we've just been really blessed here at the school to kind of see the program grow from 2019 to now I'm going into year 4. And the numbers of kids that have been involved have just grown every year. And more kids are getting interested, like athletes and non-athletes, like kids that don't even play sports want to take strength and conditioning just because I think it's a really cool environment to be in. And I credit that all to my kids and my sport coaches, man, because my sport coaches have really pushed our kids to take the class and train year round. And our kids have made it the cool thing to do, man. And I think that's huge if you're working with high school kids, just that positive peer pressure of making training and being fit and healthy like the cool social thing to do. So kids just they want to be a part of it. So really proud of where we're at, but I want to make it better. So we're still pushing the needle and getting more kids involved and making this the best program it can be.
No doubt, man. That's awesome. That's a testament to you, brother. Because obviously, and I think it's great that you have the support from the sport coaches and obviously, but like they're not going to support this if you don't go in there, right? Like kind of not necessarily guns a-blazing, but come in with everything together and being like, hey, here's what I want, here's what I can provide to the program. So and before we get into that, you said you went to Xavier. Is that in Ohio or where is Xavier?
Yeah, it's in Ohio, but it was all online, so it was
okay.
An online graduate program kind of deal. So
okay, yeah, no, because I was gonna say, I was like, dang, like he was in like Alabama for like most of his life, and then like I was like, did he just get there's like a brief stint in Ohio? Like I don't really know if I could have seen you doing that. That's awesome.
I have to tell people that when I tell people I got that degree from Xavier, they're like, in Ohio? And I'm like, yeah, it was online though. So
yeah, it was a quick trip. Yeah, no, I think the online thing is amazing, especially for your masters, because like obviously these people understand, like when you finally are trying to obtain the masters, you probably have a lot of other things going on in your life too at that same time. So, and which you did, obviously, yeah, because you're from Tuscaloosa or in that area, right?
Yeah, I'm from a small town called Centerville, Alabama. It's like 30 miles outside of Tuscaloosa. So I basically grew up in Tuscaloosa my whole life.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's awesome. And so yeah, so kind of moving into what's going on now at American Christian. So it's like, how was that transition, right? Where it's like, how did you feel like you needed to approach this thing, right? Like, what were your thoughts when you were like, all right, stepping in here, I'm the first dude in this role, and I want to obviously make it, like you said, that it's cool for people to train and to provide these kids with, obviously increase the performance of the athletes, but also try to set up some foundation, right, for like when these kids are no longer playing sports, and like that it can still be cool to like be fit and to take care of yourself and live a healthy lifestyle. So how did that transition go down, and like how has that been for you?
Well, man, that first year coming into the school, I was really just trying to kind of figure out the school's culture, kind of like how it was, how the teachers were, the school's values. That was kind of like number one priority, right? Just trying to get a feel for the school. And the way our class structure is set up is I teach 5 strength and conditioning classes a day. So like here, rolling up here in about an hour, I'll have my first class come in, and I'll have classes like back to back. And the way our classes are set up is it's any kids 8th grade through 12th grade can take it. So in every class I'll have 8th graders in here training alongside juniors and seniors, boys and girls, co-ed groups. So it makes for like a crazy environment, but it's also a lot of fun. But also with our schedule, it's called a rotating schedule. So like I may see my second period class at 9 o'clock on Monday, and then I may see them at 12 o'clock on another day. And but what I'm getting at with that is it was a battle when I first got here, because kids, high school kids are so cautious of what they look like and how people are viewing them. That thought of training and getting a little sweaty during the middle of their school day and having to go back to math class or something was just not that appealing to begin with. So especially with our female athletes, I was really having to put my salesman hat on that first year. Yeah. Try to get our females bought into training, because before I got here, our girls really didn't use the weight room. So it was really just the football team, and the softball girls would occasionally use the weight room like a couple of months out of the year. But like year-round training is like a foreign concept here.
Sure.
And so getting our girls bought into training and all that was like really big, and something that I'm really proud of the growth in our program in that aspect. Because our first year we had 12 female athletes taking our strength and conditioning class. 12 in the whole school.
Really?
Yeah.
And how big is the school? Pretty large.
We have about in the high school, so grades 9 through 12, we have I think about 250 kids.
Wow. So 12 female athletes.
Yeah, you're talking like maybe 20% of all of our female athletes will take the condition, like really low. And this year, man, we're up to 68.
Wow.
So from year 1 to year 4, I've had it's grown every year, and this year we have 68 girls taking the class. So that was like something that was a big priority of mine, getting our girls bought in, just letting them know, man, like they deserve to be in the weight room. they belong here. They need to be here.
Yeah.
And that comes a big part of my background from training under and learning under Michelle Diltz and working with the softball team and the cheerleaders at Alabama, just seeing how phenomenal athletes they are and how strong they can really be. So that was a big part of that first year. But just trying to lay the foundation and getting the sport coaches involved, man. Like looking back on it, that first year, like I said, like I was coming in, and I think a lot of the sport coaches thought that, I was just hired for the football team and I'm just here to train the football players. So that was like a big step that first year, laying that foundation and building those relationships with those sport coaches. And I think that's really important because you got to get them on your side and let them know that you're on their side, man. Like I tell our sport coaches here, like I'm your assistant coach. Like I tell them I'm an assistant coach on every team at the school.
Yeah.
Like I'm a volleyball assistant coach, basketball assistant coach. Like I'm here to serve their athletes and help them any way I can. And I know I can help them. So like just really trying to get them to understand that I'm here to help and what we want to do moving forward, like training year round and all of our sport coaches here are great, man. They're all on board and they want their kids in the weight room and training year round. But it didn't happen overnight. It took time. So like if there's any coaches out there listening to this and they may be in year one or year two and feel frustrated because the sport coaches don't get it and they just they only want their athletes training 2 months out of the year, man. Just stay persistent. Get really good at communicating with their language and getting them to understand that you're on their side.
Yeah, for sure. And so what were some of the things that you felt like, because obviously when you realize like, all right, there's only 12 female athletes in here and you have the sport coach, obstacle that you need to navigate as well, right? So like, what were some of the things that you were like, all right, if I'm going to be a salesman on this, like, what are some of the things that you were like, I'm really going to point to this, I'm really going to drive this message home or whatever it was in order to try to increase that overall activity there and the traffic with female athletes coming through the weight room and obviously trying to connect with these sport coaches? Like what were some of the things for some of the listeners who might be in that situation that they can use to kind of start to really pinpoint these things and attack that?
For me, man, it was like I really attacked the angle of staying healthy. So cutting down on injuries, man, like just showing that like that's our main priority in our program. Like in my program, like we have like 5, like I call them core priorities in my program that dictate everything I do. And like number 1 is prepare and protect. And I got that from Coach Gary Schofield, who's another mentor of mine. But like really selling the sport coaches that like everything we do in here, we're trying to mitigate the chance of injury so that your best players can play on the field. And I make sure they understand, like, I cannot prevent every injury, right? Like injuries are going to happen. I don't care if you have the best program in the world and you coach your face off with it. Like sometimes some things are just going to happen, but like we know strength training, we know a stronger athlete is a more durable athlete. And strength is never a weakness. So like in these kids, like the kids I'm working with, these high school kids, like they're weak, man. Like they need strength. Okay, like a basic foundation of strength is going to raise all other boats in their athletic performance. So I really went at it from that angle with our coaches, like making sure everything I'm doing is to make them a better athlete. Like like really making them understand that. We're not here to build Olympic weightlifters or bodybuilders. Everything we do in here, from the warm up to our accessories to our cool down, everything we do is to make them a better athlete and help them play more and play better. So that's kind of the angle that I took it at, and earning their trust. That takes time. So like showing them results, I would send them like certain data, whether they looked at it or not. I send them like quarter reports on our sprint times and jumps and things like that. But I think the number 1 thing, like the best feedback you can get is from coaches, like if they can see it like on the court or on the field, like, and that's like one of the best compliments we can get as strength coaches, like when they see their players being faster, being able to jump higher, being more agile, being able to move better, man. Like that's like one of the best compliments that I've ever got, and something I always strive for, because if you can see it on the field and you can really try to quantify it, and that's hard to do, but that's something we're always trying to do. Is everything we do is try to translate it to the field, right? So like I really preach that to coaches and our kids.
Yeah, for sure. And so kind of transition into that. What are some of the things that you feel at the high school level that you've been able to take from kind of like everything that you've learned to really start to implement that into their training plans? Like what is it like if I was to just be like, hey, I'm an outsider and I'm like, Cade, like what's the deal, man? I got a bunch of high schoolers. Like what do you think from like a foundational perspective that they need most, and how have you kind of set up their training? We could be like pretty vague with it, if you want to start like zoomed out, and then we can kind of zoom in. But what does the week look like? And, as far as, what kind of lifts we're doing. And obviously you said that these guys are moving better on the court and the field, and you're seeing that and you're hearing that from the coaches. So what are some of the movement skills that you're kind of touching on, or are you able to have the time? Do you have the time to be able to do some of those things? Like what does kind of like the weekly layout look like? And then what are some of those just like basic principles of training that you're trying to get them to grasp onto?
I mean, I think if we're talking about just basic stuff that the kids need, like I'm big on just like fundamental movement and patterns with kids. Movement first, so like teaching just hammering, teaching kids how to squat, how to hinge, how to push, pull, all that stuff. I think that's going to have a big impact and carry over. But from a training standpoint, if we're going to kind of get in the X's and O's of it, like I said, like with every situation is different, right? So coaches listening to this, like everybody's situation is going to be different, and no program is going to work best for every situation. But for my situation, in my environment where I had 13-year-olds training in the same room as a 17 and 18-year-old, that is totally different, right? Yeah. My kids understand that. Like I tell them, like, I'll ask them like the first day of class, like, should you guys as 13, 14-year-olds train exactly the same way as the seniors in here? And they're like, no, they understand that. So like the way we do it is we have blocks. So like we have block 1, block 2, block 3, and then we have our foundation block, which is like our block 0 or whatever. I know a lot of coaches call it that, but the goal of like the foundation block 0 program is to get them out of that as soon as possible. So like when I first started coaching, man, like my first year at ACA, I would keep kids in that block 0 foundation program for like, I was like, you have to stay in it for 4 weeks at a time before you can move on. But I just found that I can teach a kid how to squat and how to hinge and how to do basic movements in like 2 weeks. It's not like you can, if you really hammer it, like you do sets of 5 and just hammer that every day, the same movements, you can get kids at least decent enough to put a weight in their hands. So like we do that, and then we have block 1 and block 2 and block 3. So block 1's like our next level up from the foundation program. So that's where a lot of our middle school kids and freshmen stay while they're training. And I would say the majority of my kids, probably 70-75% of them, stay in block 2. That's where like the majority of our kids are at. And then our upper level kids, more advanced kids, are in that block 3 program, which we just got velocity based training literally like 2 weeks ago. And so I've been kind of figuring that out, trying to play around with that a little bit. And we've been using that a lot with our block 3 kids, trying to teach them how to move the bar fast with intent. But I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah.
If there's something else like I didn't touch on, please ask me. That's I felt like I kind of rambled a little bit.
No, yeah, that's how it is. And that's the thing, like with a question like that, especially too, it's like to give like a very exact answer, right? It's like I got like you already outlined how many athletes you have going on, and every single situation is completely different, and every athlete really is going to require something different. But I wanted to see, like what's it like when you have like that many kids, right, and that many different, because each one of them is its own subset of problems, right? Like each one of them is going to provide a different challenge. You know what I mean? Yeah, so sure. No, absolutely, it's a great answer. I think it's good to really. I figured it would be more along the lines of like, yeah, like we're really going to focus on like the basics. Let's just get really good at like being savages at just like doing things really well, like the basic things really well.
And I'll tell you, Anthony, man, like last year I kind of had an epiphany moment, man. Like it came around spring break last spring, and I realized, man, I was just way too complicated with what I was trying to do, man. I had a block 4 at the time. I had like 4 programs going on at one time, and it was super just complex and complicated. And I started realizing, man, like we're like average at a lot of things, and we're not good. We're not great at anything. So I really like spring break last year, I really used that time to really simplify everything that we were doing, like make it as simple as possible. And I feel like that's really helped. It helped clear my mind as a coach to like manage it all, because it's just me down here. I do have a couple of interns now this fall that are helping out.
Oh, wow.
And I do have, for 2 classes in my day, they've given me a couple of other coaches to help out, which has been some help, which has been a lot of help. But just really try to simplify things down, man, just from like the warm up, because I don't have a lot of time. I have like 35 total minutes to have these kids for the whole session. So like that warm up, man, we got like 5 minutes max, and it's got to be like precise, like don't waste any time. And then just really trying to simplify things down to what's most important. And that time frame that I have them for 3 days a week, 35 minutes, like let's hammer the big rock exercises, and let's be savagely good, like you said, like at the basics, man. Like just try to be really good at squatting, doing chin-ups, quality presses, unilateral movements, and just being really good at the basics. That's what I think is most going to give you the most return working with high school kids, man. Just progressive overload, add 5 pounds each week, hammer the basics.
Yeah, for sure. And now at that level, I'm assuming you probably have some experience, or maybe you don't, when it comes to like, hey, I'm a high school athlete and I saw this on YouTube, coach, and like I used to train with this guy and he used to have me do this. So like, how come we don't do this? Like, have you come across that at all with some of your guys, or some of them so novice that they're like, hey, yeah, this is the first time I've been exposed to any of this stuff. So it really doesn't, I'm not, whatever you say, Coach Kade, like I'm going to do.
Yeah. Most of my kids are pretty novice. Like most of my kids are coming, they're coming into the program with no training background whatsoever. Because I start seeing them as like 7th graders in the summer. So they're coming to me fresh, really novice. So like I'm getting to kind of get them from the beginning, which is really nice. But I have had that, I'd say in the earlier years, man. Like my first couple of years here at the school, I definitely had to battle that with some kids. Like, I do this with this trainer, or why don't we do this? And I just try to educate them the best I can on the way that they understand why we do things. But I'd say for the most part, man, I do have my kids' trust by now. They understand that everything we do, I'm trying to make them better, and I would never dare do anything to waste their time or something that's going to make them worse. So I really don't have that problem anymore, but I did in the beginning. I think it just takes time, working with your kids and getting to know you, building that trust. All that stuff's really important.
Yeah. So American Christian, what grades are those that they have in school? So you get some of these guys in like 7th grade?
Yeah, it's a K through 12 school. So like the whole elementary's here, everybody's here. But I start seeing our kids in the summertime as they're going into 7th grade. So like as they're going into 7th grade in the summer, we have a middle school training time. So like any upcoming 7th and 8th graders can come in the summer, and I'll see them like 4 days a week. And then like I was saying earlier, when they get in 8th grade, they can sign up for my strength and conditioning class. So
that's wild.
7th graders can't take it. The 7th graders I haven't seen since summertime. So I mean, but that summertime is really good to just kind of build the foundation, teach them how to move and all that stuff. And when they get in 8th grade, man, we really kind of the goal of that is hopefully they get 2 full summers, going into 7th grade, going into 8th grade, of our block 0 stuff, really hammering all the body weight movements. And then when they get in 8th grade, man, it's like they're ready to roll and leave.
That is something, really quickly, dude.
Get them. And man, it's really like, it's incredible, stuff that our 8th graders can do like right now, man. And I think it's a big reason for what we've done in the summertime with our block 0 stuff. Because man, I have 8th graders, they can front squat, trap bar deadlift, and they're starting to learn the clean now and stuff like that. So like they're gonna I'm really excited for the future of these middle school kids, because they're gonna have a big foundation, man. When they get like junior, senior year, they're gonna have years of training under their belt. So
yeah, I mean, that's amazing to me. That's wild. I mean, it's such a simple concept, right? Like, hey, like if you want to be better at something, like just start doing it a little bit earlier, right? So it's like, I think there's not like that general fear. I think there's still like the myths that go around. It's like, oh, like lifting weights is gonna like stunt your growth and it's gonna cause like issues and all that kind of stuff. I was like, well, I mean, like what are they doing on the field? Like, is that not strength training? You know what I mean? These kids play sports when they're younger, right? Like you're playing football. Like you don't think when two linemen are engaged that there's strength training involved in that, right? That's like, I don't think it's stunning their growth. So like, yeah, it's that's wild though. 7th grade, man, they get to start kind of going that route. Yeah, I can imagine by the time they're juniors, man, like the skill level, even if you just touched on like skill when it comes to every single thing that you're like approach, like just like different training philosophies and just like kind of like they're picking up, and they may not be picking up on it right away, but like at such a young age, they're paying attention to like what their coach is doing for them, right? Like, oh, like Cade is having us run, like we're doing like some total body stuff, or we do like, you know, upper and lower splits or whatever it is, you know what I mean? It's like that's awesome, you know what I mean? And these guys are getting exposed to that. So I mean, so yeah, so like by the time these guys get into like these upper levels, I mean, now it makes a lot of sense why you would have so many different blocks, you know what I mean? Because that I could see it getting to a point where it's like, who knows, like, and I mean, leave it to the South to like actually like get that stuff going and like, you know, starting at a younger age. It's like, I feel like up here in the Northeast, man, it's like it's like pulling teeth and like, hey man, like just get them going younger, like get them going, get them locked in, like it just nothing crazy, you know what I mean? Nothing crazy, like you said, like it's just get some basic foundational movements in, you know what I mean? So what are your plans for American Christian Academy for the next like 3 to 5 years? Is that some place that you obviously plan on staying for quite some time? And like what do you want to see like long term in terms of like the next few steps as far as continue to develop out that department?
Yeah, man, I'll tell you, I'm not lying when I tell you I have it made here, man. Like, I mean, I believe I have the best job in the world. I mean, the situation I'm in just couldn't be any better. The support I have here at the school, and the kids are awesome. The families. I mean, working at a high school, man, you're really close with the parents because you're constantly communicating with them, and you're close with the kids. So like, I really don't see myself leaving anytime soon. And me and my wife just had our first kid, and
yeah, I saw that. Congratulations. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up next. Yeah.
So like if it's in my plans, I plan on sending my kid here all the way up to senior year. But you know, things can always change, and God has different plans sometimes. So I'll always have my hands open. But yeah, man, it's really cool here what we got going on. I really truly feel like the best is yet to come for our school here in Tuscaloosa. But as far as plans moving forward, man, I'm constantly trying to make this the best high school training experience I can offer to these kids. Like, and whether that's getting nice equipment and things to train with, or just, man, I just want our kids to have a positive experience. And a goal of mine is I really try to make this their funnest class they ever take in high school. And I feel like we have a really fun environment. So like our kids, I really believe our kids enjoy coming to strength and conditioning class. It's like a break in the middle of their day, and I just want to create memories, man. I want our kids to look back on high school and think about their time training in the weight room, and I want them to grow up and love training. That's something that I've recently learned that's really important, man. Because like there's like 4% of high school kids that are actually going to go on and play college sports. So. Right. If all you do as a high school strength coach is get caught up in training that 4% to be the best college athletes, you're missing like all of those other kids that are they're not going to play college athletics. So like, I think it's important to teach those kids how to actually train themselves and learn how to, if they want to go in a gym when they're 25 years old, they're not completely lost. And that's something I've learned this past year is I've been spoon feeding our athletes, like they come in here and I have the workout on Team Builder, and they know how to do all the movements. Like they know how to do a deadlift, they know how to bench press, they know how to squat. But if they actually walked into a public gym by themselves without a coach, would they know what to do? And they probably wouldn't. So like this year, I've added into our class like these program design lessons. And so like we had our first one a few weeks ago, and just trying to teach kids literally like the basics of how to structure a workout, like 8 to 12 exercises, 3 to 5 sets. Like if you're going to do, squats, this is where you should do it or something like that. Just like teaching them how to do it. So I got them to write out their own workout. I had to turn it into me as like an assignment. And we're going to kind of try this out this year, but the goal of this is by the end of the school year, after we go through these lessons, I have these lessons mapped out. They're going to turn in a 4-week plan, like a 4-week plan that's going to be like their end of the school year project. And so like I want to teach these kids, like, you know, you hear the saying, you know, teach a man, what is it? You catch a fish for a man and you feed him for a day, but you teach him how to fish, he feeds himself for a life. So like trying to teach these kids, man, just how to be healthy and fit and how to exercise and structure it themselves. So that's something that's really important that I hope to see in the future. But man, just trying to make an impact. If I'm influencing and impacting these kids in a positive way, and they want to come back and see me and talk to me and all that, and it's going to be a success. So I want the numbers to continue to grow. So like the more kids I can get in here, the better. So that's something I hope to see moving forward. And yeah, man, I just want the kids to have a great experience. That's the important part.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's why it's funny because you got these guys like right now, like they're gonna be like defending programs by the time they're done. It sounds like they're going like for like a CSCCA, a CSCCA. What or is it the CSCC where you got to defend your program? I think it is, or something like that. That's awesome. I mean, dude, that's crazy to me. Like you got like, it's like one thing my mind is blown right now. Like you guys are so far and away ahead of so many other programs, right? It's like not only are we actually like getting our kids training at younger ages, but we're also teaching them like training philosophies and actually having them have to think for themselves. Like you said, you felt like you were kind of spoon feeding some of these guys, and it's like, all right, like here's how you would actually go about doing something like this, and then you're gonna like put together a week plan and show me. So I can't commend you enough, because like to be honest with you, like I would think a lot, like in my job now, I think a lot about like how once people are no longer athletes, I just don't think that they're provided with the same type of guidance that obviously athletes would get, right? They kind of just go by the wayside. And I'm like, well, what about like these, like the bulk of these people are going to make up society once we're done here, right? Like there's only X amount of them are going to be in the NFL. So, you know, I think I think it's fantastic to get them to a point where it's like, I don't know if that was your idea or whoever's, but like that's how you maximize the department. Like you are literally educating, not just through actions, but also through like some sort of like technical educational written piece. There's like a written course to your to your program. It's fantastic.
And the plan, what we're going to do, what I'm really excited about too is this first one, I just got the kids to write it out on paper and they had to turn it in. And like I talked to all of them and showed them like, okay, this is good, but next time you need to tweak this, fix this. Because for the most part, man, it was really good. Like I told the kids, I'm like, guys, like you're gonna get 100 as long as you turn it in. Because they were starting to freak out. They were like, Coach, I'm gonna get a C. I don't know how to write a workout. I'm like, guys, this first one, just write it out, and I'm gonna help you. I was like, as long as you turn it in, you'll get 100. But for some of the kids, like I went through it and I was like, A+, great job. I'm like, that's exactly like a workout I would write up. I mean, that was good. Not saying mine are perfect. But
that's wild.
Like, coming up in before Thanksgiving break, they're gonna like revise it and write it again, and they're actually gonna do it in class one day. So like they're gonna do what they wrote out on paper, and then the next day they're gonna switch with a partner, and they're gonna do their partner's workout, and they're gonna kind of like pair up and like coach each other through it. So they're gonna be learning that way. And
that's cool.
The week before spring break, they're going to write out a week-long program. So like we start out with a day, and then we're going to teach them how to write out a week-long program and plan it out. And they're actually going to do it in class before spring break. So that week before spring break, like I'm not going to have workouts for them. They're going to come in, and whatever they wrote for themselves, you know, as long as it's not crazy, you know, like I'm not going to be doing we're not going to be doing sets of like 50 barbell squats or nothing off the wall like that. But I'm excited for that because I think the kids are going to understand, like, okay, they're going to learn, like, okay, this looks good on paper, and then you actually do it yourself, and you're like, this doesn't work.
That's wild.
We as coaches, like, I do that all the time, right? Like, I'll write out a program, and I'm like, this is great, and I'll take myself through it, and I'm like, this is terrible. Like, I never wrote this out, like, you know. So, like, I think that's gonna teach the kids and really help them hopefully learn it and grasp it in a way that they can apply it. And that way, man, me working in the high school setting, like I'm an educator first. So like I'm trying to educate these kids on how to exercise, how to eat right. We have our character development side of our class too that we go into. And so I'm really passionate about teaching the kids. I think that's that should come first as a coach, always teaching.
Yeah, for sure, man. You are definitely doing that in more ways than one. I think it's funny because whenever I hear about coaches talk all the time about like, hey, we got to educate, and like just trying to provide more education around whatever it is the athletes. And it's always typically like, maybe you grab them at the end of a session and you're like, hey, like guys, here's what we're going to do for like nutrition, or here's what we're going to do for this, or that kind of thing. It's like, how much of that is truly being absorbed? But you really have like built out a curriculum. I mean, you're basically creating strength coaches. I mean, like, let's be honest, like these guys are going to be at the point where, like, regardless of what they do, who knows, like some of these kids might be like, I really like this, and like this is something I might want to pursue. So that's awesome, man. I think, it's funny because like one of the questions on this podcast is always like, what do you think we need to do in order to kind of like continue to establish our field and like push things forward, right? Honestly, what you're doing right there is probably one way. I haven't even really thought of that, and that's one way to do it that I think would probably have the biggest bang for your buck. It's like, well, let's just start with like the younger generation, obviously, and just kind of expose them to some basic principles and have them write things out and defend it and put it into action and see what's practical and what isn't. So that's awesome, man. Like I commend you. Like this is great. Like this is why I love this podcast. I feel like everybody I talk to, I learn from, but like I've learned a ton just through this. Like I'm already thinking of some ideas. I'm like, man, we should really start like testing people and just seeing what they're not like. If you work with whoever's listening, like whatever audience you work with, like the best test to see if obviously what you're doing is working is to ask them, you know what I mean? Like test them on the material, you know what I mean? See if they're picking up on anything. So that's awesome, man. That's incredible stuff. Yeah, no, for sure. And so if you got like 3-4 more minutes, you good on time for a little bit?
I'm good, brother. Until I got like 15 minutes. I'm good.
Okay, cool. So just kind of getting into that a little bit, I kind of wanted to just talk about, like, obviously you got a wide array of experiences in the field. What are some of your own personal like negatives and positives that you've experienced in this field of strength and conditioning? Obviously, I'm sure you got a ton of positives, and I'm so glad to see like everybody I've interned with at Alabama, I felt like has really kind of found their way, right? And it's funny because for a while there, like, bro, I don't know about you, but like I was different. Like I was 26 when I was down there interning, you know what I mean? So it was like, I was nervous, bro. I was like, man, I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like, where is this going? You know what I mean? Right. Like, it was kind of wild. Right. But like, it seems like everybody's really found their way. So I'm really happy to hear that is the case for you. But obviously along that path, as you know, and have outlined before, is not easy. Right. So like, what are some of the things that you found to be like a negative kind of like connotation with the field of strength and conditioning, and what are some of the things that you feel are like the most positive pieces of our industry and your experiences?
That's a good question, man. I'm thinking about negatives. Like, are you asking like just negatives like in our field as a whole?
It could be negatives in our field as a whole, or it could be something like personal to you, like an experience that you had that was like, hey, this was a negative experience, and this is what it represents, and this is why this negative experience happened, obviously, in your
Well,
experience.
I think it's important. Like I have a couple of interns this year, and I told them, like, you may not agree with everything I do, and that's fine. But even if you learn a lesson on what not to do, that's a lesson learned, right? So like, I think back on like my intern years, like interning and not just interning, but like, going to conferences and stuff like that. You may listen to a coach and you're like, I don't agree with that, or like I don't think that's the right way to do it, and that's fine. Not everybody's going to agree with everybody. So like, I have had lessons on how not to do some things, and those are valuable, right? So I don't know if you classify that as a negative, but there's definitely been situations that I've learned on how not to do something, and I've took that and applied it. But as far as like a negative thing I'm thinking about in our field, I'm gonna get to the positives in a minute, man. The positives to this job are endless. I could talk for days, but as far as like negative stuff, man, I get very agitated when I get on Twitter. I don't know if you're on Twitter, but like on social
I had to get off, man. I had to get off. Like it's such a drain on you mentally, man. God. Instagram's starting to get that way too. Like, I feel like everybody's just yelling at everybody. You know what I mean?
I love Twitter, man. And like, there's so much good that can come from Twitter, and I learn such good stuff from it. So that's why I can't delete it. But the arguing back and forth over the dumbest things, man. Like, I can't tell you how many times that I'll see something on Twitter and I'm like, I don't agree with that, or I don't like that, and I just keep scrolling. And I feel like the world in our field would be so much better if you just kept scrolling. But like, you have some of these people that are like, you have to call that out, and but it's really, to me, you're not doing any good by calling it out for everybody to see. If you want to DM that coach or call him up and ask him his opinion on why he thinks that way, or he or she thinks that way or why they do it that way, that's fine. That provokes like constructive conversation that's going to help both sides. But the calling out, and it's happened. I've been on the wrong side of that. I posted something before of our kids doing something, and you have that coach. It's like they didn't control it on the way down. Yada yada. It's
Wow.
like,
Wow.
just get out of here, man. Like
Yeah,
stuff like
man.
that. So that's like a negative as far as our field, because I think it just makes us look bad.
So petty.
Outside,
So petty.
people on the outside see us all the time just bickering over the dumbest stuff on whether or not double leg squat or single leg squat's better. I just don't find that constructive. But as far as positives, man, are we talking about like positive experiences I've had or positives in the field or what?
Yeah, it could be a little bit of both. Yeah, but I'd love to hear like your experiences, right? Like, what are some of the things that you feel like have been like most rewarding for you?
Yeah. As far as positive experiences, most rewarding for me, man, my time in Alabama, interning there. Like I said, I was there from fall of 16 to spring of 19.
Yeah, you're there for a while. Yeah.
I was there for like 3 years, and that's where I learned how to be a strength coach, right? So like I got to cut my teeth, and I got to lead groups and write programs. And I got to make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And like I mentioned earlier, like Michelle was so instrumental in that, but not just her, but all those other coaches there, man, like Josh and Coach Jim Hamner and Scott Cochran and all those guys and Moorhead. I mean, those are just great experiences looking back that really showed me the way and gave me great experiences. But my time here at ACA, man, it's just been nothing but positive, really. I mean, I've just really enjoyed my time here, and I love these kids, and I get so much fulfillment just knowing I'm helping them and making an impact in their lives. That's the positive of this job, man. So it's not, I love watching them play and compete and seeing their success on the field, but more than that, man, I just love having relationships with them and knowing that I'm hopefully making them better people. So
yeah, for sure, man. That's awesome, and that's like I said, that's the hope, and I think that's it. And just to go back, we gotta give a shout out to Coach TJ too. Man, like there's so many dudes there. I don't know who's still there. Like, you ever go back there? Do you ever like visit or anything like that? I'm sure you're probably pretty busy, but like, I don't know, like who's. I
went back over there one day in the summer, not this past summer, but the summer before.
Yeah.
And, spent the day with Coach Ballou and all those new guys over there trying to learn from them. But
I feel like things have probably changed so much.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that's wild. Yeah. So I don't. Yeah, because I mean, there was like, it was like Moorhead was there, Chap was there, right, in my year, and then T.O. was there, and then you had like Hambone. Yeah, that's wild, man. It's wild. Yeah, good times for sure.
Those are some good times, man. You look back on it, like when you're in the middle of it, it's such a grind, and like you're thinking like, oh my gosh, is this gonna be worth it one day? But it is, man. Like, you go through all that tough stuff, but looking back on it, man, those were experiences that they were some of the best years of my life. A lot of fun looking back on it, learned a ton. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think the one thing that I probably took away from that, because like when I went, that was my first like internship in the collegiate field. Like, I've been in the private sector for like 6 years prior. And like I said, I was older. I think like Scott Cochran's like transparency with me, like his ability to like actually be honest, and like I remember him sitting me down, and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. It was the end of my internship. And they're like, like you should stay, kind of thing. But Scott was like, well, I mean, unfortunately for you, it's not like you could just get, like, if you do one internship in our field, it doesn't necessarily mean you're guaranteed a job anywhere. You kind of have to do like multiple, right? And I was already kind of at a disadvantage there because it was late in the game, So obviously he was like, I think you probably need to get another experience under your belt somewhere else. And like at that time, I had no context of that. Like in my mind, I don't even remember like what I thought. I don't even remember thinking like, do I need to do more or do I need to just stay here, kind of thing. I just was like, I literally was just going, you know what I mean? I don't really know. I don't remember, but I remember him being like, it's probably best if you get like another experience on your resume and then just keep building from there. And that was exactly what I did. So I think that was a key takeaway, I guess, for like all the young people listening. I don't know what is right and wrong in terms of like how to approach and navigate the field right now. I'm sure it's changed a little bit, but I know at that time it was like you needed to, I know dudes who intern for like 3 years before they get a job, you know what I mean? And some guys, who were interning at, like, they started interning when they were in like high school. You know what I mean? They had like 6 different internships before they got the first, where, so I think it all depends a little bit, but like you said, man, like lessons learned. Like I remember us like taking naps in that back corner office all the way up there, and like that garbage smelled terrible. I don't even know what that was, dude. All the interns, no one would take out the trash, and it was just like we would all be there, whatever. It was like 5 o'clock in the morning, and just like huddled up there, just trying to like gather ourselves mentally. Like, all right, here's what's about to happen today. Like, let's get it going.
Yeah, man. There were some good times, man. Good stories for sure.
No doubt. Well, appreciate you, man. This has been awesome. Like I said, this is a great podcast, man. I can't wait for this to come out. But what I'll do is once we hop off, I'm gonna shoot you a text. I can get some info from you. But any final words, and plug your Instagram too. You know what I mean? Like let people know where they can find you and all that kind of stuff. Just let people know. But yeah, we'll wrap up with you. I appreciate it, Kade.
Yeah, man. My Instagram is Kade, spelled KADE_McGee7. And then we also have our ACA strength page that I'm really active on, highlight my kids with. So that's
nice. I'll have to follow that.
Really
yeah.
Cool. So yeah, man. As far as like last things, man, I just appreciate you having me on. It's been great catching up with you, man. I'm glad to see you're doing well too, and excited for our futures.
Yeah, for sure, man. Appreciate it. Well, Kade, thank you. Listeners, we'll catch you guys next time. We're gonna wrap up there. And Kade, again, thank you, man.
Thank you, bro.
All right.